for being the first parent to respond. Good job, Harry's mom.
Good job, Harry. My dad said they do. What was the guy's name?
You probably went to school.
Yeah, my
dad said he would.
Yeah, well, because your dad, I know your dad graduated in 85.
Yeah, my dad was 85. So my dad said he was really close.
Good. But then why don't I hear from your dad?
Because my dad doesn't like cathedral administration.
I'm not a cathedral
It's just like cathedral administration stuff. Like he has something like that.
Tell your dad, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm telling him to give you permission to go on the trip.
Oh, well, he said it's your choice because he made.
Okay, I need his permission, or your mom. Get your mom to email me. I need somebody to.
It has to be an email.
No, I'll give you a form. It has to turn in tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, I'll get it.
All right, here we go. You gonna forge it?
What?
You gonna forge it? All right. Everybody get your notes out. We're gonna look at a big time hyperbola now. Okay? Get your notes out. Here we go. This is page 56, letter C. Page 56, letter C, down there at the bottom. Now, when I look at this, I know this is a hyperbola because it has a minus here. You also will know it's a hyperbola on your quiz and test because the directions will say, find the asymptotes, find the transverse axis. So those are words we use with hyperbolas. So even if you didn't know that was a hyperbola, you would know from reading the question. All right, where is the center?
Three negative 1.
3, -1. So nobody's got an issue. It's 3, -1. That is the center. Okay? Now, do you remember, what do the 16 and the 9 do? They do what they've always done. What do? The 16 and the 9, well, the 16 tells me to go sideways, 4, and up and down, 3. So I'm going to start at this point, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, on the quiz I just handed back, we connected those dots with an oval. But remember, with a hyperbola, we don't connect them with an oval. We build a box. So here comes the box. Okay? And then we go ahead and draw in our diagonals. You can use a solid line or a dashed line, whatever flips your switch. Draw in those diagonals. Now it's time to actually draw the hyperbola, the curve itself. So that's when we look at the equation. And remember what I told you yesterday? Whatever letter comes first, that's the direction it opens, right? So since X comes first, this thing is going to open sideways. Because sideways is the X direction. So if X comes first, it opens horizontally. These points right here at the center of the box over here, these points are called the vertices. So now we need to figure out where our vertices are. There are only 2 of them. Well, remember how you found those points? You started here, and what did you do? You counted back 4. So if you start at 3 and count back 4, won't this be at -1, -1? And if we count forward 4, won't this be at 7, -1? Those are your vertices. There are only 2 of them because there are only 2 blue points that make the curve. Those are the vertices. Now, just like with your ellipse, there are 2 axes. So there's this axis right here, and there's this axis right here. Those are the axes of the curve. So one of them is called the transverse axis, and one of them is called the conjugate axis, right? Transverse goes through the vertices. So this is the transverse axis. How long is it?
8.
8. Guys, how far sideways did you count?
4.
4 each way, right? Which makes 8 total. What about the conjugate axis? That's the other one. 6. You went up and down 3. Now your foci are always on the transverse axis. They're in that direction. So your foci are going to be back in here somewhere. Inside those blue curves. The branches of the hyperbola actually look like parabolas, so the focus is inside each one of the parabolas. In order to figure out where they are, we need to know what this distance is, right? Notice, where am I measuring from? The center. The center is the beginning of everything. So I'm starting at the center, and I'm going to count back and forth a certain distance. How do I find that distance in a hyperbola?
16 plus 9.
Yep, I add 16 and 9 and take the square root. So 16 and 9 is 25, and the square root of 25 is 5. So I'm going to start at the center, which is where x is 3, and I'm going to back up 5. So I'd be at -2, -1. And then I'm going to go forward 5, so I'd be at 8, -1. So I'm starting at the center, and I'm going forward and backward this distance. Now you are done except for the asymptotes. We have to write the equation of the asymptotes. Now, the asymptotes are lines. You need a slope and a point for each one. Does anybody remember what point might be the best one to use? Not the only one, certainly, but what might be the easiest point to use? The center. So we're going to use 3, -1. And before you start questioning why, I just want you to think about it for a minute. Isn't that the only point that both asymptotes have? And I don't have to figure it out. I can use it for both lines. It's easy. If you want to figure out one of these other points, that's up to you, but it's way more work. Use the center. Now, the slope, you already know, because when you built this box, when you went from here to here, you counted up how many? 3, and over how many? 4. So that made the slope 3/4. Unless you were going this direction, and then it is -3/4. The two slopes will always be exactly the same, only one's positive and one's negative. Because one line's going like this and one line's going like this. All right? Now you can do your lines however you want. I'm going to do one each way, and then you'll just, it doesn't matter. You can do point slope, which would be y plus 1 equals -3/4 x minus 3. That's the point slope form of a line. Y plus 1 equals -3/4 x minus 3. Now clean that up. Moving 1 over. So that's -3/4 x plus 5/4. Mrs. Ford has to do some arithmetic. You're going to have a calculator to help you with the arithmetic if you need it. But but there is going to be arithmetic involved because the slopes will be fractions, almost always. Okay, so that, I did that one using point slope. I'll do this one using slope intercept. So y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. So I'll figure out so b is negative 13/4. So y equals 3/4 x minus 13/4. There are my two asymptotes. And every year when we do this, kids freak out at doing that. And I want to remind you, you've been doing that since freshman year. That is just writing equations of lines. So it's nothing to be scared of. It takes a few minutes. And you do have to watch the arithmetic. But it's nothing new. That is nothing new. You've done it for years. Written the equations of lines. And I don't care which way you do it. So you don't have to do it both ways. Do it whichever way you like best. That's it. That is your hyperbola. All right, we're going to do one more. And then we'll talk about our field trip. So there's one more to do. All right, so I'm on the back of the page now. I'm looking at problem D. All right, here is problem D. Where is my center? Please be careful. Where is your center?
0, 5. 0, negative 5.
Negative 5, 0.
Negative 5, 0. Remember, even though the equation is written backwards, the point must be written x comma y. Negative 5, 0. Have I got it? Now let's build the box. What does this tell me to do?
9 up and down.
Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I ran out of room. And then 4 left and right. And there's my box. So it's a big one this time. And here are my asymptotes. Oh shoot, this is not good. I'm gonna have to change my scale a little bit. Does anybody see what I'm thinking? I'm thinking ahead a little bit. Why am I thinking this isn't gonna work?
It's a Y. It's a Y.
It's a Y, and the way I had it set up, my box went clear to the bottom of the board. And which way is this thing gonna open?
Out.
Up and down. So I gotta have some room down here. So I'm shrinking that down a little bit. I'm changing my scale a little bit. So just remember, I counted down 9. And my hyperbola is going to look like this. Okay, so I counted up and down 9 and sideways 4. And it's all whopper jawed because I modified it. Now, since I know which way it opens, these have to be my vertices, right? So let's talk about that. We started at the center and went up 9. So isn't this the point, negative 5, 9? And this one is the point, negative 5, negative 9? Those are my vertices. Right? Now what's my major axis? Or not major, my transverse axis. What's my transverse axis? 18. Because these are the vertices, So this is the transverse axis, and up and down 9 would make 18. Now what about my conjugate axis? Kind of got to ignore my picture. I went sideways 4, so it's going to be 8. Now your foci, if you think of this as a parabola, it's clear your focus is in there like that. And we need to figure out, here's my center, we need to figure out how far up I have to go to get that point. Now I'm starting here at the center, which has a y value of 0. How much am I adding? What is the distance from the center to the focus? What am I adding?
81 to 16.
81 plus 16, root 97, which is not a perfect square. So it's going to leave it root 97. So if I'm starting at 0 and going up root 97, isn't this going to be the point -5, comma root 97?
Yep.
And this one will be -5, negative root 97, because I came down root 97. Some of you don't like the radicals, and unfortunately, they're just there. We've got to deal with them. So I've got everything up here except the asymptotes, right? So what do I need to know to write the equation of the asymptotes? I've got to have a slope and a point for both of them. Right? So what point am I going to use? -5, 0. What slope am I going to use? 9 over 4. So one of them's negative, one of them's positive. And then however you write the line, if you do y equals mx plus b, this one's a little easier because you don't have a y value. So y equals -9 fourths minus 40x minus 45 fourths. So there's one of them. And I got that one doing y equals mx plus b. The other one, find it however you want, y minus 0 equals mx minus x. So that's 9 fourths x minus 45 fourths. Something's not right. Where's my mistake? Oh, x plus 5. That's better. So there are my 2 asymptotes. Okay, so the next quiz we have will have 4 problems on it. It'll be just like the one I returned to you. Then there will be 1 extra problem on it that will be a hyperbola.